that in a city the size of Kingston, if there's a gathering of some 200 to 300 people, many of whom stated ahead of time they had lawlessness on their minds, that you wouldn't have a single police cruiser at least monitoring their activities. But that was the case on June 20th, and we're going to try to find out if this is indeed the reality, that these thugs were able to get the police off their back just by requesting that the cops do so. David Menzies for Rebel News here in Kingston, Ontario. Well, folks, you know we love to deliver the other side of the story. And if you want us to continue doing that, we have expenses such as security. So please go to journalistdefensefund.com. That's journalistdefensefund.com. And if you are able to, make a donation. Now, folks, I'm back here at City Park in Kingston. My cameraman Mocha and I were here on June the 20th. And it was basically to cover a mob of Antifa-type thugs who were threatening to pull down this gorgeous statue of our first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald. Of course, there was nobody in that group that had anything resembling an engineering degree, so the best they could do was throw eggs and rocks at the statue. The thing is, we came to cover it. We didn't even interact initially with the mob. We stood literally right here to do the introduction to the video, and well, like ants to an open jam jar, those thugs came to us, and well, not only were they verbally hostile, they were physically abusive. Check it out. Pardon me?
What are you doing back here?
Oh, we're on a public street, ma'am. What are you doing here?
Why are you here creeping on our protest? We don't want you here. We ran you off before from the park. We will do it again.
Yeah, you were physically violent, so...
No one was physically violent with you. No one touched you.
Don't. Get out of here. It's a public park. Come on.
Whoa. Let's move over.
Oh, you're a tough guy behind that mask, aren't you?
Get out.
Oh, and you too.
No one was physically violent with you. No one touched you.
Do you believe that removing a statue removes history?
Don't touch the camera.
What would you call it?
I would say that we're no longer celebrating a racist creep.
Now, of course, we are looking for some of the violent ringleaders who were doing that physical assault, and hopefully we will be able to name them, shame them, and charge them in the days and weeks ahead. But here's the update to this story, folks. We were told recently by a law enforcement source right here in Kingston that the reason why this mob was so empowered and entitled to throw fists that day was because there was no law enforcement presence. And why was there no law enforcement presence, you ask? Well, allegedly, according to our source, the ringleaders went to either the city or the police and said that in light of events in the U.S., i.e. the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis, they didn't even want to see a police officer or a police cruiser. It was triggering to them, and incredibly, they got their way. I mean, look at the video footage here at City Park. Look at the video footage of their final destination, which was City Hall, where they burnt an effigy of Sir John A. Macdonald. We actually captured some police SUVs, what I thought was heading to the scene of the crime at City Hall, but rather making a hard left turn and driving away. It was absolutely staggering. I mean, the idea that there are bad people about, well, 'twas ever thus. But the idea that bad people are telling those in charge not to monitor them, and this is a mob who bragged on social media in the days leading up to the statue vandalism that they were up to no good, it makes no sense. Now, I did reach out to the mayor's office, Mayor Paterson, to ask if this was true. His spokeswoman denies there was any negotiations with the ringleaders of the mob in the city. I have since reached out to the Kingston Police Department. I've reached out to Chief McNeely. No response. I've reached out to the media relations department. No response. And by the way, please don't, interpret this as me being anti-police or anti-Kingston police. I think the rank and file here are doing a great job. It's just that their political masters are apparently putting handcuffs on the police when it comes to enacting the law. So we'll continue to wait for a response from the police. If we don't get it, I think we'll have to file freedom of information requests to find out if there's any record that was kept regarding negotiations of keeping the police at bay. But again, folks, does it make sense to you that in a city the size of Kingston, if there's a gathering of some 200 to 300 people, many of whom stated ahead of time they had lawlessness on their minds, that you wouldn't have a single police cruiser at least monitoring their activities? But that was the case on June 20th, and we're going to try to find out if this is indeed the reality, that these thugs were able to get the police off their back just by requesting that the cops do so. We'll bring you an update to this story, hopefully, in the days ahead. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, bringing you the other side of the story does not come cheap. Sometimes we need security in order to bring you the other side of the story, because there are forces afoot that don't want us to bring you the other side of the story. If you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. That's journalistdefensefund.com and make a donation.